is written by Alyssa Fong. She was 16 when she wrote this. She says, a lot of times I find myself mindlessly on social media, comparing myself to what I see online. It makes me reflect on the time I waste, wishing that I could be someone I'm not. So this is her poem called Instagram. I lie awake in bed, 3 a.m., restless. I pick up my phone. Pictures of my friends and people I don't know, on vacation, partying, showing off their Louis Vuitton bag. It seems like I'm the only person trapped behind the screen. It seems like everyone is living in a different world than me. Don't want to party, don't want to hang out, don't want to go outside. I stay at home, open the fridge, and try to sleep. Find myself scrolling through Instagram again. Just a nice little slice of life, you know?
I love it.
She's just having a moment. All right, this is something totally different by Bibiana Mashamba. She came here from Africa with her sister and joined our mentoring program. And she said this piece was inspired by a beautiful place I lived growing up near Lake Victoria. It's called Kastamu. The yellow pipe stretched from one village to another. Water from Lake Victoria streaming down from it like a storm. People washed and dried their clothes, and children like me bathed right there in public like it was one of our games. Fishermen stretched the net off their boats and sang lullabies for the fish to sleep dead in them. Sometimes when the water was clear as crystal, big ferries would come and children would climb on them. You could see the fish swimming down on the sand bottom, chasing each other, the sand so orange as if reflecting the sunset.
I can picture that in my mind, and I just feel so at ease, so basking in the sunshine and just part of her and her family.
That's part of what we do at WriteGirl, is try to have young people figure out how to describe something they feel, you know, because we feel things about places, about people, and we can say, I miss them, and you can't see that, taste it, touch it, feel it. But when she describes the river and the fishing boats and the nets and the lullabies that the fisherman is singing, suddenly you're like there.
Yeah.
You know?
And it evokes a feeling in you even. What a beautiful way to end April and National Poetry Month, which is amazing. Can you tell us more about the book that you read everything from?
Yes, this is our latest and greatest. It's called This Moment, and it's an anthology by more than 180 teen girls. So it's their poems, stories, essays about their lives, about their families, about their hopes and dreams, about things they hate, you know, about things that frustrate them. It's a really rich anthology, and I think sometimes people don't buy books written by teens. They have a bias that, oh, they're undeveloped. They don't know anything yet. They're not accomplished writers. Why would I buy teen writers? But, you know, this isn't rhyming, trite poetry. As you heard, it's like slices of life and moments that are, you know, universal in their depth and emotional content. They're hilarious at times and painfully, you know, emotional at other times. And we're really proud of it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm surprised there's a bias because for me, anyways, young adults are the most authentic versions and reflections of life. And they're the ones that are able to express the heartbreak that they're going through for the first time, or the first time that they I don't know, get asked to prom, or all of the things that, you know, the curiosity, like life is just beginning, they get to express all of that, not adults who are washed away and
closed and guarded,
tainted, you know,
cynical, all of that. Absolutely. I don't know why. Part of my mission is to try to, you know, have people see teens as whole, valuable contributors to society, you know, fully, not on the fringe. But it's a tough road. I think people have, we don't talk about it, but people have biases against teenagers.
Yeah.
They see them as being undeveloped and not ready for life. And I've never seen it that way. I think, like you said, they're at a stage where they're wearing their emotions openly. They're, you know, vibrantly curious about the world and curious about traditions and standards and biases. And, you know, I think we have a lot to learn from what they have to say.
Yeah. Wow. Let's start there. WriteGirl is your organization that you started many, many years ago. Can you tell us more about where did the idea come from? How did you started? What have some of the challenges been that you've faced?
Well, I was actually part of a mentoring organization in New York that's still running. So I have some deep roots in this arena of helping teen girls. And I've always felt like I have a passion for writing. How could I help teenagers have that same passion? Because they generally don't. They're in school and they're like, oh, I have to write an essay. Oh, I have to write. Oh, gosh. It's like the one thing they really don't usually like to do. Math is another one, but writing is often next. It's like the thing they don't want to do and they don't really see how it's fun. So if we can change their minds, wow, the worlds that will open to teenagers if they felt like they could write their ideas, their feelings, proposals, resumes, cover letters freely and easily, even a letter to like get their landlord to reduce their rent or their mother to let them out to do something that they otherwise wouldn't, though the persuasive writing is part of it, also creative writing. So I think that idea of trying to inspire teenagers has always been just a really big passion of mine. And, many years ago, when I moved to Los Angeles, I was driving by John Marshall High School in Los Feliz, and I saw all these kids dumping out of the school and on the grounds, and I was just like, I need to launch something to help these teens to, help them find the power in their own voice. And I know a lot of writers, so it was kind of a nice marriage of like, let me get my writer friends together who also want to contribute, but they don't want to go necessarily clean the beaches or do the usual volunteering things. They're like, I'm a writer. Is there somewhere I could contribute, not tutoring, but my creative writing skills?
Yeah.
So I tapped into my writers. We found a community center. We brought champagne into the community center, which we were supposed to do.
I love that you did something illegal. That makes me so
Right at the
happy.
beginning. But it was like a christening. It was like a big launch of something
it was
magical.
a celebration,
It
right?
was.
It's a toast.
It was great. And some of those people are still involved 23 years later. I was looking at some photos of that meeting, and it was like 7 out of the 13 are still involved in WriteGirl, which is like incredible. So, and we're not that different. Like all these years later, we match women with teen girls for one-on-one mentoring once a week. We do monthly workshops. Sometimes they're twice a month. And we publish books.
Yeah.
And we've done a lot of other things as well recently, like we do some programs now in Uganda, and we've done some programs, a lot of them online, and we do some partnerships with different organizations. But the kernel of group workshops, mentoring, and publications is so consistent from 23 years ago.
There are so many things that I love about that. The first one is communication, right? We all know that communication is so important, right? I can say something to you. If you don't receive it or if you misunderstand it, we may have a problem, right? So teaching somebody how to communicate effectively, teaching somebody different formats of communication, especially in written form, writing a script that you can then talk to your landlord about or, whatever it is. It's key to everything and it's key to success. Definitely. The other part of that is the mentorship program. My mission now is to help women out, especially young women who usually feel invisible because of societal problems, biases, stereotypes, whatever. Like there's just this position that they usually are put into, whether it's conscious or unconscious, where they may be silent. They don't feel like they can speak in class. They don't feel like they can articulate themselves in a certain way. And it stops them from becoming their full self, which is beautiful and amazing and so capable. And you've impacted so many incredible girls, like through everything that you do.
Well, it's a real calling, I have to say. Like I've always sort of said, well, the day I wake up and don't really want to do this, I'm going to stop. And that day has never come. I'm in the middle of the night. I'm having a new idea about, we should try doing a workshop in this part of town with a library. We should, that person I should contact to see if they might want to come and speak at one of our workshops. It's just a constant thing because the impact on the teens, like you say, like they don't know they need it, right? The teen girls don't say, where's WriteGirl? In fact, they kind of go, my mom told me I should go my counselor or my therapist. We get referrals all the time and they come rather reluctantly at first. And then they're like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait to come to the next workshop. And we have a line around the room where they're wanting to read their work in front of an audience. And these are teens that are, withdrawn, shy, nervous, ostracized, marginalized. But, we create this feeling where sort of no matter what, you're one of us. And we don't discriminate, you know, on any basis other than you have to be 13. There was a girl that was 13 one year and then 13 the next year.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, you got to give her credit for like putting a little fib on her registration form because she wanted in so badly, you know, but that's one rule. They have to be 13. But otherwise, you know, we have non-binary youth, trans youth, youth from South LA, East LA, West Side, you know, and I love that this is a rare chance for all of these teens to come together that otherwise wouldn't. They would never meet each other. They would, you know, it's a rare thing to bring people together from different parts of LA.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there's so many different bubbles,
Yes.
right? There are so many different sub-communities everywhere that
true.
it's hard for them to all mix. So let's talk about that, right? So when you think about like socioeconomic conditions, when you think about the various challenges that different populations in LA are facing, right? Whether it's poverty, whether it's education, you know, like a lack of education, a lack of really great schooling, not for a lack of trying, right?
Yeah.
How do you tackle that?
Well, writing is so central to a girl's development and a teen's development. You know, if they can learn how to write, if they can learn how to express themselves, they're going to be able to write that college application, that FAFSA application. They're going to be able to go through that interview to get into college. You know, so I think we're a college program as much as we're a creative writing and mentoring program. And we don't tell the teens that because they don't really want to come to a college program, especially at 13. But, you know, a few years go by and we just slide them right into the college pathway program. And before long, you know, we just got an email yesterday from a teen saying, you know, she's now at college and would never have gone to this college if it wasn't for WriteGirl opening her eyes to the possibilities. And
my heart.
she wants to give back now that she's going to be graduating from college. She wants to be a volunteer. I mean, it was a long letter and a lot of us have been crying yesterday because it was so rewarding to see how much we impacted this young woman, you know. So, yeah.
Everybody needs a reason for being and for staying, right? And you're a part of that, even in ways that you might not see it every day or every moment of every day, but you do feel it later when they're like, oh yeah, that's you.
It's often a later thing because that is one thing that we train. We have a really intensive training program for our mentors. And, you know, they come to us as accomplished writers and they don't think they need it, which is fair enough. But once they start going through it, they go, oh, I see. There's all these sort of areas that we've learned about. And one of them is that the teens may not say, oh, you're really helping me. Thank you for being my mentor, or this is really wonderful. But when they get in college or beyond, then it starts to be, they can start to process it and really understand what a gift that was and how valuable it was in their life. And often they will come back to us or to the mentor and really express what happened to them and the transition that happened under the, you know, the mentorship experience. And then there's all these other things about, you know, we talk about swimming like a dolphin, like go alongside the teen instead of, you know, it's confrontative to look at a dolphin straight in the eye. You're supposed to swim alongside of them and almost pretend that your eyes are in the side of your head too, right? So you do that with a teenager. You're better to walk with them and chat with them than sit with them this way that we are head on. And that's a metaphorical thing too. It's not just physical, but it's sort of like come alongside, like don't make them feel like you're teaching down to them. Go along with them and be next to them and help them on their journey as a sideways.
The amount of inner child healing that I'm currently experiencing is amazing. Can you tell us more about the program? So like what does WriteGirl offer? And then what does the mentorship program have to do with it? Or how does it enhance the things that you're already doing?
So it's really all about play, right? It's about, we call them writing experiments instead of writing exercises. We call it sharing your work instead of performing your work. It's all about let's play, let's experiment, let's explore, let's, you know, try poetry, fiction, nonfiction, screenwriting. And even if our writers, mentors, our screenwriters, we help them see how they could explore new genres and help that spirit of exploration with teen girl. And along the way, you know, that becomes a metaphor for trying new things, taking risks, learning how do you approach a new subject that you don't know. So all those skills are coming along with it, as well as leadership skills, because at some point we're going to try and encourage them to read their work in front of an audience. We're going to try to have them write for a different audience, because you're going to write differently for one audience. So many skills along the way that we coach the mentors on helping the teens develop.
Yeah.
And it's less about, grammar, structure, punctuation, all that. I mean, we get there, so I always remember to tell our English teachers that we do get there, but we just don't start there.
Yeah.
We, try to get the teens to write upside down in their journal and write a page and throw it in the garbage to release that anger, that fear, and like play, have that experience of writing being play. And can you imagine how your relationship changes with writing if you're not being tested on it, judged on it, if you don't have strict rules about how it has to be? You just start being more free, like those paint and sip things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, there's the freedom that comes, and yet there's still structure. The mentors have a lot of specific activities that we give them. We train them on things like not using superlatives, right? So don't ask a teen what was the best thing that ever happened to them. Just ask them about one good thing. Don't ask them the most favorite, piece of music they love. Just ask them what kind of music they love, And the mentors are all like, oh, that's a really good idea. And now they see those things still come up in interviews and media all the time, but they're pressure. If I tell me, one of the most important moments of your life, oh my gosh, you got to start really thinking, whoa, I've got to figure that out. And it's difficult, as opposed to tell me about something a place you really love to visit, So all of the writing activities are designed to take away the pressure, to release the teens from that rigidity of having to meet a certain goal and let it come out however it flows from their pen,
And it gives you permission to play, right?
Yes.
There isn't a right, there isn't a wrong, there just is. And you get to do whatever. And that's the fun of it. That's where the great ideas come in. Whereas if you do have the pressure, you tend to become this perfectionist almost, where I can't write anything down unless I already know that I have the perfect page in my head that's going to come down.
Right.
And even if it comes down, quote unquote, the wrong way, then, oh my God, everything is in the trash and that was a terrible idea. And
now you're locked up.
Yep.
Now you can't do anything. I mean, we definitely bring in sample writing, and these books are great to be able to share writing by other young people so they can see, what they're writing about and how they write and stuff. So as inspiration. So we use our own books as part of the program. And then, we're always looking at innovative ways of making it really interactive. We'll bring in a nature table of seashells and leaves and let them pick an object, trace it, write it. We did have a whole lesson plan on, I shouldn't say lesson plan because that sort of makes it sound like school, but a whole series of workshops on the manhole cover.
Yeah.
So where we show them manhole covers, and then they have a chance to draw their own and write a motto that they'd want on it. And then what's the world that is beneath the manhole cover? So it's, sort of integrating art and community and tactile visual things so that you're not writing just about a concept, because that's actually really hard.
Yeah. Wow. And then the mentors are a part of that. They're part of the journey. They're supporting them. They're there for them as a consistent influence.
Definitely. And, we try to keep them in that creative writing lane so that the mentor doesn't feel like they're a life coach or they're not their sister or mother or authority figure. They're a creative writing coach.
Yeah.
That's what they're there to do. And it's great we have 114 right now, 114 teens that are matched with their very own mentor. It's more than we've ever had before. We've grown a lot in that regard. And I think pandemic contributed to that because people aren't driving or going places the way they used to. And the mentoring allows them to do it online by video or by phone, and, no parking, no driving needed, and a little bit on their own schedule. And I think that the teens and the women have really appreciated that flexibility that the online mentoring now offers.
Yeah. It reminds me of the concept of like creating your own board of directors almost, right? So like as you get older, I had a mentor actually tell me like, well, create your board of directors. Like, what do you want to be? And then if you want to be this person, who do you need to have on your director level that can help you, right? So it could be like, I don't know, if I want to be the CEO, I need a finance coach. I need, I don't know, like a consultant that's going to help me with like the business savviness. I need a wellness coach to help me balance and get enough sleep and make sure I'm eating the right things so I can be sharp and focus and stuff. And sort of with the creative piece, right? Like, so you have your mentors that are focused on the creative writing instead of being this life coach, because then things get a little bit messy.
Yeah.
So again, you're setting them up for success.
And yet it is integrated a little bit with wellness, because, we do sort of what we call body and mind moments at every workshop now, where we're teaching the teens tapping, self-massage, breathing techniques. They're short, but at every workshop, we're trying to give them some tools for their own well-being. And the mentors are on board with that too. So there is a little bit where it goes beyond creative writing into healing and sort of self-help to a degree, and self-care. And I really love that too, because it nothing is separate from anything else in a way. Your whole body is part of the writing process. Your whole being is part of your own development. And, we're sitting here, fixated in chairs, but we try to get the teens on their feet and get them moving and get them, we do an activity where they pretend to be those floppy, balloons outside the car dealership.
So funny.
It's so great. And it's like 30 seconds. So everybody does it, and we all look ridiculous together, and then we all sit down and keep writing, but they just get that idea that, oh yeah, this is my whole self is here. I need to bring my whole self to this process, to this creative process,
I started taking my journal when I do yoga, because when you're doing yoga, I know you do a lot of stretching activities as well, right before you write or something, but you're releasing your joints and your muscles.
That's right.
And sometimes that releases different ideas. And so afterwards, or even throughout, I might write something down that I don't know what it is at the time. It's just unconscious, but I just blah, blah, blah. And later on I go in and I might use that for my writing even.
It's great. It's great. We give the teens a nice journal. We have journals, companies that donate journals to us, and they get to select a really lovely journal, and we just encourage them to take it with them everywhere. Like you say, to yoga class or to school or on the bus or wherever. And, they really get that feeling of like the power that comes from writing those ideas down, even if you don't know your dreams, things that come to you, things that bug you, things that you're excited about, things that you have questions about. And 5 of our teens are performing this to open the LA Times Festival of Books. And they wrote a group poem all about the power of the pen.
Oh my God.
I'm so proud of all of them, especially Amanda Gorman. She went through our program for 4 years, as well as her twin sister, Gabrielle. And we're so proud of how she's been able to bring her poetry to the world. And, raise her voice to honor so many of her ancestors and others, and, bring poetry to the front by a young woman, not an older person, which is typically how we hear poetry.
Tell us more about some of the other girls that come to mind that have just completely done amazing things.
There's just so many. I mean, we have doctors now, several that have become doctors, lawyers. Some of them are in the screenwriting business, starting to really develop their own voice and pathway as screenwriters. So many of them are in other creative areas like public relations, marketing. It's amazing to see how they have translated this experience of having, in some ways we're creative writing, but in other ways we're just about confidence building as well. So no matter what field you go into, if you don't have confidence, it's going to be a struggle. And if you can find that place to be able to walk in the world confidently with yourself and walk in a door where you don't know anybody, it's going to take you really far. And that's what we see mostly, is they're not all going to become writers, but I love seeing how they're walking confidently in the world, saying what they feel about themselves and the world around them with such boldness.
Rooted in their foundation, being able to articulate their feelings, being able to articulate their point of view, asking questions, being inquisitive.
Taking a gap here when they need to. Taking care of themselves in ways that, I don't know I was ever really given permission to do. Like you went to school, you got a job, you went to college, there was a path, and this was the path. And they don't have that view. The teens that are coming out of WriteGirl are kind of like, I'm going to do this my way, and here's what it is. And it's fantastic.
That's amazing. How did you learn how to put everything together?
I think it all came a little bit like at a time, you know,
Yeah.
like I know that spark of inspiration was there to want to help teen girls find a joy for writing. But I had my own mentors along the way that were poets, poetry teachers, other writers. And, you know, we still work so collaboratively even now, you know, to plan a workshop. There's 25 women writers that come together that say, let's do this as a warm-up activity. Then we should try this. And we're piecing it together, thinking about trauma-informed strategies, healing-informed strategies, thinking about the backgrounds that teens come from, the diverse, you know, cultural backgrounds, but also, like you were mentioning earlier, poverty, family struggles, community issues, schools that are overcrowded still, lack of, you know, people in their lives that maybe value or understand their creativity or their creative voice. So we have to kind of always think about all of those factors, and many of them with the women too, because they also come with things that we need to factor in, you know? So it's a lot of collaborative work to really figure out how are we going to create a mentoring program, a workshop program, ongoing, that has an impact in a positive way, that makes a teen walk out of there feeling better about themselves, feeling hopeful about their future. You know, I'm sure we don't always get it right, but we're sure trying our hardest to make our Right Girl experiences joyful, inspiring, uplifting, and, you know, give them something maybe they don't get anywhere else.
Yeah. Right. I imagine that graduates of the Right Girl program come back later and give you the feedback or the builds or the inputs.
Oh, they do right away.
Yeah.
Emails or calls right away when there's something that wasn't quite right. And that hasn't happened for a while, thank goodness, you know, but we listen because they're who we care about, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been really wonderful to have that feedback loop instantly and later, you know, we take it all in. And I think there's always room for growth for us to continue to, I mean, even now we're trying to figure out what is the next iteration because the world has changed. You know, we're doing a lot more online programming than we ever did. In fact, we never did online programming
It was all
until
in person.
pandemic. It was all in person. But now we're doing mostly online programming because, and the teens have told us, I love that I don't have to drive anywhere and I'm in Orange County or in South LA and I can't get a ride there. So we can still provide programming for all of those teens. But what does that look like? So we're learning how to bring things into the online environment that are just as playful and interesting and surprising. And there's been a lot of things we've done online that have been so hilarious. We did this one activity. We need to do it again because it was really great. We unmuted everybody and everybody got a chance to just rant about what was frustrating to them in their lives. So it was like a yelling into the void. And nobody could really hear anybody else, but you could hear bits and pieces of things. And we just kept it going for a while. And everybody loved it because it was so cathartic and it was almost like being in the same room together, you know, but it was safe and it was, you know, it was just a wonderful moment. So we're trying to get inventive with things like that can create a feeling as opposed to the talking head online that just talks to you.
Well, and even like societal norms have changed. The way that we communicate with each other have also changed since the pandemic, right? Even social platforms. So have you had to adapt the way that you're writing or even like integrating more social writing or forms of writing into your workshops or?
I mean, I think we're facing a very big challenge with teens being fed social media 24/7.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard this poem about Instagram, right? That this girl wrote, and she's revealing what is in the same situation as many teens. They love it, they hate it, right?
Yeah.
They're online, they're not online. They're on Facebook, now they're not on it. They're on Instagram, now they cancel their account because they're struggling too with they want community. They want to find ways to express themselves and experience other artists and creators. And, you know, there's a lawsuit against some social media properties that Canada just recently filed due to negligence for how they are directly harming youth.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're conscious of that. And I mean, I'm not sure that Right Girl can take all of that on and resolve that. But at the same time, I know what we are trying to do is create more spaces for them to be able to leave behind some of those social media things and be more in the real world, even if it's on Zoom. without advertising, without pressure, without a set goal, without body image stuff being fed them or benchmarks of appearance and fashion and money being, pushed at them like this is what you need to attain or aim for. So, but it's very difficult, we're really up against a very big challenge there. And I love when we get it right. Like we had a poetry workshop recently, and it was at the Autry Museum here in Los Angeles. And we wrote some really great activities. That one was go around the museum and find something that you think is a self-portrait. And it could be anything, a sculpture, an abstract painting. Like where is a piece of art that reflects something about you, and write a self-portrait poem based on this one piece of art that somehow speaks to you about yourself. Yeah. And it just gave them a chance to like write about their own internal being, select a piece of art that they wanted to respond to, and walk through a museum, it's an incredible exhibit there, at their own pace, where they're selecting the media they're viewing, right? I mean, the museum has selected, all museums select what they're presenting, but then you're not being fed it on a scroll. You're going to walk up to it. So you get some agency in what you're viewing and what you're taking in. I mean, teens need more of that.
There is an overload of information, and there needs to be a sense of discernment on everybody to decide, what do I want to take in and what do I want to leave behind? I'm just learning that now. I can't even imagine being 13 years old and having the algorithm decide for me based on what I'm watching, what I'm not watching. But a lot of times you don't really have a choice, right? Because you're just given it.
You don't.
And then like you can't mute your friends because you're also in school and you have to be a part of your community, right? And like, what's happening with this person? What's happening with that person? How can I fit in? How am I standing out? How am I standing out in a bad way? Like there's so many different, again, emotions and thoughts and expectations that are around you all of the time.
It's really tough.
Yeah, you have to have that intention to be like, okay, I'm in this museum that I chose to go into. Here's why. Okay, let me walk around and figure out what I'm resonating with. I wonder why, So that's, again, incredible.
It's a great experience. And then if they have a journal and you've given them some avenues for writing in it, maybe we're encouraging a little bit more time away from social media.
Yeah.
It's giving them more, analog time.
Yeah, with their own thoughts.
With their own thoughts and their own white page that they can do anything with.
Yeah.
And they can create their own sort of version of things, And we talk about curating your feed as well, I mean, I recently overhauled mine.
Love.
And now I see rocks and gems, because I'm a rock collector, and I see rusted, weird pictures that look like beautiful things out of rust.
That's funny.
Not animals, but just like vistas that you see on the side of a truck, like a close-up of a rusted thing. So I see rusty things, I see rocks, I see beautiful mountains, I'm on the Cloud Society, International Cloud Society page on Facebook.
So funny.
So it's just literally pictures of beautiful clouds, and it's a really different world than what I used to see, because I wasn't so intentional about what I was getting, and I was just kind of passively seeing what was coming in. And I changed it up, and I said, well, if we're going to ask our teens to curate their feed, maybe I should be the one to start that. So, take care of it myself. So now my online world is really different. I still get the ads, for a couch when I'm looking at a couch and, for days, but, less so, because I've made some really serious, deliberate choices about what I want to see and what I want to interact with. And we need to help teens do that more.
Yeah.
Because you can. You might not eliminate all of what's being, pushed at you, but you can pull more to you.
You can help them focus. You can be there for them. You can be a sounding voice, right? That talks about it. You can help them even, how do you update your settings, right? The political season's happening, right? How can I minimize or maximize depending on what I like? I'm like, I don't want to see any of it. If I want to talk or hear about politics, I'm going to go and find it.
Right.
But I don't need it to be just pushed on me all of the different, all the times.
It's so great. But I mean, who is helping teens understand that?
I bet you nobody is really, unless you're a parent or whatnot. But
and then it's hard. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it from their parents.
Yes.
Yes. For the most part.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not always. I don't mean to put down parents, because there's so many wonderful parents that are doing such an excellent job coaching their teens through all of this.
And they continue to do it, which is not easy, but it is hard, right? Because it's just, I mean, there's so many hormones and feelings everything's happening all at the same time for them, you know?
Yeah.
What about Right Girl in the community? So you talked a little bit about the partnerships that you all have. Can you tell us more about whether it's like local museums or art galleries or spaces that you've worked with, but even businesses that you've worked with that just help provide more for the girls?
We're always looking for more partnerships. So if you're out there, we're always looking for ways to partner because it's so great to take the teens. Like we've brought them to Warner Brothers Studios and they got to meet the writers of DC Comics, you know.
That is so cool.
It was so cool. It was so much fun. And they got, you know, swag at the end too. And they provided a lunch for them. Those are meaningful things, you know, little gifts and food make the whole educational process a lot richer. And then we have relationships with the Natural History Museum, such a rich exhibit and well beyond dinosaurs. You know, there's just so much there that they can tap into to write about. There's the LACMA has also been a really great partner. MoCA has been a partner with us. The Huntington in San Marino, a lot of our teens have never been to such a beautiful place. And imagine you go walking the garden with your mentor, writing songs or writing fictional stories, you know. And
I will say, sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for a
please.
second. The Huntington Library.
Yeah.
I thought it was an actual library. So when I went there the first time, I brought like my work stuff with me and I tried to find the library. I mean, beautiful gardens, but I was like, I can't work from here. It's just gardens.
It's true. But they do have some beautiful indoor art exhibits, you know, and I know they have some private libraries that you can go to for research purposes too. In fact, they have one of the biggest collections of Octavia Butler's work. And she's a science fiction writer from Pasadena that was really a rare creature. And we did a whole workshop around the works of Octavia Butler and took them through the exhibit of her works and her affirmations that she wrote in her journal of how she was going to succeed in life despite the odds. And it was a really, really wonderful thing to be going to gardens, you know, exhibits like that, educational exhibits, and then, you know, getting some lunch together and then wrapping up in a beautiful theater and having the teens read their poetry at the end of the day. It's been an amazing partnership, that one, for sure. But there's so many more that I'd love to be able to take, you know, the teens to. Like, you know, I don't know that they've seen very much of boardrooms or office spaces or writer's room, what a writer's room looks like on a TV show. And to be able to give them an insight into that and hear from the people who are working in those industries, that's always really life-changing for a teen. We took one teen, we got connected her with she wanted to be a forensic what is it called? Forensic detective. So we knew a writer on CSI and got her onto the set of CSI. And it was life-changing because they have really good equipment that's part of the show. I mean, some of it is mock, but some of it is the real stuff that they use. It's, you know, forensic stuff. And they learned a lot in that journey about the entertainment industry, about forensics, and, you know, it kind of opened their eyes. I'm not sure that she ended up doing that as a profession, but it was still a really powerful experience.
She'll remember for the rest of her life, and also to be in that space. So first you help these girls and really young adults, right? Think about it, right? What are you envisioning? What do you want to do? They then communicate it, but then you're placing them in that space to be able to really say, like, I can be here if I want to be here.
Or connect them with a mentor that is a fiction writer or that is you know, a songwriter. You know, our songwriting workshop, which we just do once a year, we bring like 20 singer-songwriters and they write for all the stars. They write for Beyonce, they write for, you know, all the big artists, and they help the teens write their lyrics and then they set them to music at the end of the day on the spot. And it is a life-changing experience for a teen girl, how her words, her feelings, her ideas, her story could become a song, you know? So whether they become songwriters or not is sort of irrelevant, but this idea that my words can have this impact on an audience, you know, that's really powerful. It's a really powerful experience, you know?
How does somebody get involved?
Well, for teen girls, if they're 13 and
not 12,
13 to 18, they can join on our website. There's a registration form. We don't screen, so We don't really have any qualifications. You're in, you know.
Yeah.
We may not be able to get a mentor right away to every teen that joins, but they can come to all the group workshops immediately. And now, because we're online, they can be anywhere. They can be anywhere in LA or America or around the world. We have teens now from the Philippines, Uruguay, Poland, Paris. It keeps going. Nigeria,
Wow.
South Africa. So,
But it is only English, right?
we are only doing the
Okay.
program in English. Occasionally, we will do a parent meeting in English and Spanish if needed. So, and we had something translated into Swahili for one of our, from Swahili to English in one of our books. So we try to accommodate other languages as needed, but we're not really running the programs in other
Sure.
languages. It's really in English. And luckily for us, there are many countries around the world that are students are studying in English and they want to learn English to be able to
Yeah.
travel and do other things that English might afford them to do. So yeah, only in English.
I
But
mean-
it's
I'm going to talk to you like in a year and you're going to be like, yeah, we actually have all of these other programs. Like we're doing something in Germany and
working on it. We have a regular program going right now in Uganda, and we meet with these teens once a month, and it's been really wonderful to see their
Yeah.
growth. We have another program in Cameroon. We've been working with some teens in Tajikistan who want to start their own organization to help teen
Wow.
girls in Central Asia, and that's going really well. We're like mentoring them to create their own organization. And then we're looking ahead to maybe India as well,
Wow.
where there are a lot of girls' schools, but not as much emphasis on creativity,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
academic stuff. But they need this too. This is the complement to academic stuff, because if they can express themselves, if they can write freely, then they can do the essays and the other
Yeah,
kinds of
everything
academic
else
writing
that they need to do.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because writing won't be so frightening anymore. And their essays are that much better because they know how to write about specific details and imagery and paint a picture and tell a story,
Yeah.
you know?
You talked a lot about the support that you're giving and the different education that you're offering. How do you know you're doing the right thing? How do you measure success?
Well, it's two things mostly. One, college acceptance. And
Yeah.
we have in 23 years, 100% success rate in sending all of our girls in the core mentoring program onto college.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's not easy. And, you know, we have a 30-member volunteer team that helps guide the teens through the college essay and FAFSA and college selection
Wow.
process. So that's one of our measurements is, are we meeting that? Are we continuing to help teens gain access to college? It's harder for us to track their college graduation rate, but we try, and we definitely know some of that because persisting through college is another benchmark. And we're trying to help them as much as we can. You know, we don't have, you know, our focus is on the teens, but there's no line that suddenly they go to college and don't need us anymore. So
Yeah.
we're doing more and more work with our college-age students. And then the other real barometer, we do surveys, of course, and we ask them outright for their own reporting about what they got out of the program. And that serves as some kind of a measurement too. But it's their testimonials from after they've gone to college or when they're in college or when they've graduated from college. I think those are the ones that really tell us, because they then have the perspective to be able to share what this program meant to them. And it's been a really, I mean, that honestly gets me up in the
Yeah.
morning every time, and it puts me to sleep when I'm in the middle of the night stressing about where are we going to get the funding or how are we going to morph this program. I think about those college age teens and what they've told us, or young women, I should say, and, you know, what they've told us about what they experienced. And that drives
Yeah.
me and all of us. You know,
Well, I mean, you have the most incredible team by your side. I mean, they're complete rock stars and so nice and so kind.
the staff and volunteers are really
Yeah.
amazing. And I think in a way that was part of what I wanted to do when I started WriteGirl. It was like, LA can be cold. It can be difficult to get to know people, difficult to find your way to your people. And I was like, well, maybe I just need to make it, you know? So I kind of did. I pulled together some friends and some other people I didn't know that were writers. And now they're my best friends. And I just am thrilled to go to the next meeting, the next volunteer gathering, the next workshop, because it's this community of people that want to help others, that are creative, that are, you know, that everybody's got different levels of struggling and career, and it's not a rainbow perfect scenario necessarily, you know what I mean, like we're real people.
Yeah.
But the feeling of wanting to inspire each other, wanting to help others, wanting to create a community that does lift you up and provide a cushion for all the hard things that we all have to go through in life sometimes. I mean, that's been a beautiful thing. It's like 23 years have gone by like that because I've got this cushion of this wonderful bubble of a fantastic community that are really coming together for a common purpose.
What's next?
Well, I wake up and think about all the teens that are not in WriteGirl. And the challenge is, how do we reach them? How do we bring them in? How do we bring in more mentors to be mentors? Because we have a waiting list always, every year. It shrinks and grows, but there's always a waiting list of about 20 teens, 20 to 50 that want their own mentor every year. So I think what's next is, how do we continue to grow and find the funding to support that? How do we reach the teens that would really need this the most? How do we continue to make the program relevant in the ways it needs to be given post-pandemic, given social media, given the pressures and the pulls of what teens have to face in their lives? And it's ongoing, how do you make those adjustments to make it work, And internationally, I know there are teens outside of LA that would really love what we do, and we've reached some of them, but there's a lot more. So scaling up is just, it's like number one on our minds. How do we take this wonderful model and grow it to a place where it's serving many more than it is now?
Or even like adult teens like myself who would definitely benefit from your program. That's incredible. As we're wrapping up, do you have any advice or words of wisdom for our listeners and people who are watching?
Well, I would say, think about any of the teens that are in your life and, be open to their wisdom. Ask them questions and listen, They get talked to a lot, teens, but they are not listened to enough. So that's one thing I would say. And then if you know of a teen girl that's 13 to 18 or non-binary youth or trans youth, send them to WriteGirl. We welcome them with open arms. If you're a woman writer in any genre and would like to mentor a teen or be of service to WriteGirl, we welcome you to get involved. And again, you can be in LA, but you can also be outside of LA. But we love our LA, people, and we will continue to do in-person events in LA. So we're really looking for both young teens to join and women to join always. And we will scale up to make it work. So if we get hundreds of people coming tomorrow, we're going to make it work, and we'll find the funding to be able to serve the audience that makes it through our doors.
Right. Or even if you have a space, or you have, if you have a product that you think might serve these girls,
if
definitely
there's some
reach out.
Partnership we could form. If you know of a journal company that can donate journals, or a space where we might be able to hold an event, absolutely, we welcome partnerships.
Are professional email writers allowed?
Yes,
for
of course. All writers of any kind, as long as they're coming with an eye to be creative themselves, because this is not an academic program per se. And all genres of.
It's not easy growing up. It's not easy entering the world. And I'm so glad that we have people like you and WriteGirl who just offer so much support and love and joy and empowerment to really be more of who you are and to show up in this world as yourself. I mean, it's so special.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you for letting me come and talk your ear off about WriteGirl, because it's the one thing I love to talk about the most, as you might have guessed.
I love it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Yay!